Hey there, welcome back to your favorite AI channel's favorite AI channel. I have used literally hundreds of AI-based data analysis tools, but in today's video, we are going to go deeper into using ChatGPT as your day-to-day data analysis machine. Either you are an aspiring data scientist or someone who just wants to do baseline data analysis and data massaging, this video is for you. I'm not sure, but you might be surprised by the kind of data tasks you can do with ChatGPT, from mundane data regrouping and data cleaning all the way up to descriptive statistics and exploratory data analysis for advanced use cases. And guess what? I'm going to cover all of these for you here in this video. We'll divide this video into 3 parts, and before I even get started on those, I will tell you how to set up and configure your ChatGPT for best results. But before I go any further, thank you for tuning in to AI Trail. We are here to break down the coolest tech, mind-bending breakthroughs, and all things AI. Please don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay up to date on AI tutorials like this, AI news updates, and much more. Let's get started. Alrighty, let's start off with the current setup. So just wanted to mention quickly that I'm using ChatGPT 4. You can do some of this initial work, especially the part 1 of the video, using ChatGPT 3.5 as well, but I would highly recommend ChatGPT 4, which would require you to have the Plus subscription, which I have at this point in time. So in this section, let's start off by exploring the vision capabilities of ChatGPT. When I use the word vision, what I'm actually talking about is computer vision. That is ChatGPT's power for understanding what is inside a given image. We will later do the same for PDF files, and lastly, I will cover the unstructured data analysis. So let's start off with this first fun picture. All what I'm going to ask ChatGPT is tell me what you can see in this picture. And let's see if it's able to figure out. It's basically an old image of Bill Gates sitting with some very old Microsoft machines. So ChatGPT says in this image you provided, it shows a humorous meme featuring a person. So first off, it's able to detect that it's a meme. It's technically not able to detect who the person is, which is kind of fine. They're surrounded by old-fashioned computers, including a prominent display of Microsoft computer. This is so cool. So essentially what it's trying to do is looking even at the smallest pixels on the image and trying to figure out what's written in there. Text on the meme says, when it comes to data analysis, I excel, which is a pun on the word Excel. This is super awesome. It kind of has a deeper understanding of every single word that shows up in this image. So let's take an example of another picture that has no words in it. All I'm going to ask is, what is happening in this picture? Let's see if it's able to detect the action that's being performed in this picture and some of other details here. So it says the image depicts a stylized digital workspace, which is exactly what this is, featuring a person hand working on music production or digital content. This is like super awesome. This is super spot on. Based on what it sees in the monitor, it's able to kind of gives you a sense of what's going on here. The person is managing several monitors and a musical instrument digital interface controller. By the looks of it, it definitely looks like more of a digital interface, music interface than a keyboard. So that sounds great. So overall, I kind of seem to like this answer. So let's try to do a little more complicated picture this time around. Again, I'm going to ask a simple question to ChatGPT. Analyze and tell me what you see. So this image has a few interesting parts. The entire image is slightly tilted. There are words on this image. Person is coding. It does say programming. I mean, we could technically cut off this part of the picture to see if it's still able to figure out what it is, but let's see. The image is a creative representation of a programming and software development environment, which is awesome. It's able to detect the exact language, Java and Python, prominently labeled. Plant, a light bulb. ChatGPT is able to literally find all of them. This is like super awesome. So next up, ask ChatGPT a little more complicated question. So this is a receipt from a restaurant. I'll start by asking ChatGPT to analyze this image and create a table of data. So this is some extra task that we are asking ChatGPT to do this time around. Let's see. So you could actually see ton of different items on it: crisp fried, chilled ice flan, Sprite, fresh coconut, all of those things. Let's see if it's able to identify. Another important thing that you should look into is this image is not very crisp and clear. It is a little blurry, taken from not a very nice camera, I believe. Let's see if it's able to still figure out all those things. So crispy fried, yam ring stuffed. $18.8, which is right here at the top. This is super cool. So think about all the possibilities and all the things that you can build on top of the vision capabilities of ChatGPT for data analysis. All right, so we have this entire list. It's also giving us quantity, which is super cool. And it also gave us the price of every single item. Now we have this item in the table. What else can we do with it? Let me ask ChatGPT to group these food items into different buckets and maybe aggregate the amount of each group. Recreate the table. I just want to make sure that it recreates the table with the different groups that it has. All right, so ChatGPT has identified that there are different buckets like beverages, seafood, vegetarian dishes, and more. Okay, cool. So I did ask it to recreate the table, but it's kind of giving me in this format, which is something I don't like. I'll stop ChatGPT and ask it to don't give me bullet points. You have to kind of give ChatGPT some directions along the way to provide you the best results. And again, I'm going to talk more about this in this video later on in section 2 and 3. All right, so this is super cool. It's giving me beverages and it's putting all the beverages in there, the total amount for that. And then overall, this result seems to be pretty awesome. All right, next up, I'm going to go a little deeper here. So I'll give it a picture of advertising revenue by user geography for Facebook from 2018. This is a publicly available data. I'll ask ChatGPT to analyze this bar graph, although I don't have to kind of specify that this is a bar graph, and give me detailed insights now in bullet points. So basically, this is the format that I want the results in. Also, tell me which areas the company needs to focus on and which areas are at risk. So reiterating my point here, I don't only want ChatGPT to analyze this graph this time, but also give me insights. And also based on what it's able to read, I want it to do some deeper analysis and tell me what are the risk areas for Facebook. So here's the bar graph of the amount of money Facebook has made between Q4 16 to Q4 18, divided that across different regions of the world, rest of the world, Asia Pacific, Europe, US, and Canada. And let's see what it provides me. So growth in all regions, that is pretty evident that it has kind of been growing across all regions of the world. Dominance of US and Canada, that's also pretty visible. The darkest part here is US and Canada, slightly less darker is Europe. And then rapid growth in Asia Pacific. So this is awesome that it has detected that Facebook has gone from 2025 million to about 4087 million in the Asia Pacific region, which it's kind of highlighting here as well, right here. And then a steady growth in Europe is smaller, but steady growth in the rest of the world. So based on ChatGPT's analysis, these are the focus areas. For example, emerging markets, since the rest of the world hasn't grown well compared to other areas, it is suggesting that it might be small, but it has the potential for growth. In areas of risk, there's the risk of market saturation in US and Canada. This again is an amazing point based on the data that we have. Regulatory challenges in Europe. Now, this is just mind-boggling amazing. So if you are into the advertising world, or if you have ever heard about all the privacy concerns around it, ChatGPT is technically suggesting Facebook to look into GDPR, especially in Europe and other areas of the world, and then comparative market analysis Asia Pacific. Again, because the growth hasn't been big enough in Asia Pacific compared to Europe and America, ChatGPT is suggesting that this is a highly competitive market with local platform possibly edging into Facebook's market share. This is just super awesome. So think of more complicated scenarios similar to this, where a data scientist had to previously spend hours and hours to analyze, which can literally now be performed with ChatGPT with minimal instructions for it. So now let's look at an even more complicated graph, which you may not understand by simply looking at it. So I would again ask a simpler question, analyze the picture and give me insights. So ChatGPT is quickly able to understand that this is a box plot comparing z-scores across 3 different growth metrics: weight for height, weight for age, height for age. And again, a series of data points that are super amazing, including figuring out what the outliers are, how does two groups compare to each other, and the distribution of these scores. This is just mind-boggling, guys. So in the next example, I want to show you that we are not limited to interpreting just graphs or charts. We can literally analyze any diagram. Take, for example, this diagram of a database schema. I will ask, again, ChatGPT to analyze this diagram and give me details of this database. Let's see if it's able to capture that. All right, seems like it's able to easily pick up all the different tables of the database. What I want to do now is to ask ChatGPT to write a complicated query for me. So based on this DB schema, write a query to get all orders grouped by merchant. And here we have it. ChatGPT is literally able to write a complicated query for us based on the schema provided in this diagram. Isn't this super cool? It's also explaining the exact query that it has written. I can now ask it to rewrite the same query for MySQL as well as Oracle. If you just want to go a little vendor specific here. So again, these are just like one of the very few examples of the kind of things that you can do with the vision capability of ChatGPT here. So here we have it, a query written for MySQL and a similar query written for Oracle databases. It's also now explaining the key differences and considerations while writing queries for both of these different SQL engines. Alrighty, I think we have seen enough of these images and the analysis on those images. Let's start off with a PDF file. Here's the balance sheet of an imaginary company, which shows assets, liabilities, and equity for that company. I'm going to upload this to ChatGPT and ask it a few questions that I've already prepared. So the first question I want ChatGPT to answer is, I want ChatGPT to imagine that it's the CFO of this company. Which liabilities on the balance sheet would they prioritize paying off first, and why? Let's see. Alrighty, so here's a detailed analysis that ChatGPT has done for you already. So first, just list down all the liabilities that the company has. Then it's giving you the criteria upon which it would select one of the liabilities to pay off first, which is written here, around impact of cash flow, financial flexibility, and especially risk mitigation. And then here's the recommendation around line of credit borrowing. So let's first check if the line of credit borrowing is the exact same amount in this sheet, which is true, 507,494. So typically the line of credit have a variable interest rates, which is one of the reasons, and the increasing cost of borrowing over time. And you can also see ChatGPT suggesting some strategic considerations for long-term benefits, which is super cool. Now let's ask ChatGPT to investigate this balance sheet in a slightly different way. So assuming ChatGPT is one of the investors in the company or would like to invest, which part of this balance sheet would you scrutinize? And also, like give us some reasons of why they would scrutinize one section over the other. And what would you hope to find? This would be interesting. All right, it has started to come up as an investor analyzing a company balance sheet before making an investment decision. There are several key areas to scrutinize. All right, so liquidity ratio, the current assets with current liabilities, asset efficiency and management, profitability. So I think at the beginning, it is giving, again, all the criteria upon which it would start to analyze a company's balance sheet. And here, it's looking at the current assets versus current liabilities of the exact balance sheet that we have uploaded. So as you could see, you could literally talk to any PDF file and all the numbers that are in that PDF file. You can do a bunch of number crunching around it. You can ask for different sorts of details based on the data that we have in here. So as the last example for part one, I would actually give ChatGPT some unstructured data. So let me set some context first before I copy paste that data. So I say I'll give you a raw unstructured data, and I want you to create a table of every single video. So again, giving it some context that the unstructured data is going to be about video titles with count. And then I would ask ChatGPT to perform some sort of analysis on what are the top 5 videos, or in fact, what are the top 5 video categories. And for this raw data, what I've done is I've gone to this very famous YouTube channel, went to its popular videos, and literally did a Control A and Control C on the page, and then copy pasted every single thing, which includes not just the video titles, but all of the other text that's part of the page, which includes this entire menu on the left and everything else on the page. And hopefully you're super excited to see if ChatGPT can crush through this super unstructured data and give us some meaningful information. Let's find out. All right, so this is again some basic information on the process that is going to follow to answer the question that we have asked. So extracting and list video titles, RetroTech Game Boy using Apple Vision Pro and Samsung Galaxy, which again you can see on this page are exactly the top 3 videos of the channel. Again, it has provided the entire list. Then now it has started to categorize the list of those videos: Apple product videos, Tesla related videos, gaming videos, retro, Samsung products. It's then providing a count of videos per category, and then eventually concluding the top 5 video categories with the count of videos for each. Now just imagine what you can do with this capability of ChatGPT, where it's able to cruise through the entire unstructured data, not given in any format. It's not a database, it's not a JSON format, it's not any format technically. It's literally a copy paste of some random data. And you can see the amazing result that ChatGPT is able to produce for us. All right, I know I said this is the last example of the first part, but please allow me to give you another example of data generation of sorts. So I prepared a quick prompt for this that I'm going to copy paste here and see the magic. So this time around, I'm not giving ChatGPT any picture or PDF or unstructured data. I'm actually asking ChatGPT to generate some bar graph for me using any programming language, right, with various numbers. So it can add some random numbers to it. But I'm giving it some context. So I'm asking this chart to be a sales chart for a company across 10 countries for the whole year. Let's see if ChatGPT is able to generate such a chart. Alrighty, it's analyzing at this point in time. So this is a sample bar graph of sales of a particular company across 10 different countries. And it's literally also trying to explain the chart that it has generated. Now think of the entire analysis, like the basic analysis we have done up to this point, that you can now rerun on this particular chart that ChatGPT has generated. For example, I could ask ChatGPT to aggregate the results of unit sales, sorted by top country, grouped by monthly sales for the generated data that we have here. Let's see. It is analyzing at this point in time. There are 2 things that it has done, which is actually above and beyond my expectations. First, it has aggregated sales across those 10 different countries for every single month and generated another bar chart. And now it has also sorted the countries for total sales, and then by month as well. What else do you need, guys? All right, let's move over to part 2 of this video. Alrighty, this was all fun and games. Now let's get into the more meaty parts of this course. First off, I will go and set the custom instructions which will help us set the right context to help us get the best answers from ChatGPT. So as I was recording this course, ChatGPT had a huge update. They launched the GPT-4o model, but I'm not going to use that in this course for right now because you can still get the best results from GPT-4, especially for data analysis tasks. One thing that has changed in the interface is this: all these settings have moved to the top right. They used to be at the bottom left corner somewhere here. So depending on which version do you have in wherever you live in the world, you can still go to the section and go to custom ChatGPT. So this is the place where you would actually set the context for how ChatGPT should understand the question that you're asking and the kind of responses you're looking for. So what I'm going to say is I am a data scientist, or let's say data analyst, specializing in finance. I am interested in finding insights within the housing industry, or again, for your specific use case, you could put it any industry for which you're doing the data analysis by understanding graphs and charts. All right, so that's kind of like my context. So this part of the prompt will be appended by ChatGPT itself, which will tune the ChatGPT to provide more specific results based on what I'm providing here. Next up is how we would want ChatGPT to respond. And in this section, I would say, give me concise answers and ignore all of the niceties that OpenAI programmed you with be direct. So in this section, for example, if you would like all your responses to be in a bullet format, you can put that in here. If you want every single answer to be in a tabular format, this is the place where you would put that in as well. I think this is good for me at this point in time. So this is the context, and this is how I would like ChatGPT to respond. Setting these are important to get ideal and to the point results. Feel free to go crazy on this and like fill it up with exact details. This will help ChatGPT refine the answers based on what you're trying to do. Let's save it and move on. Alrighty, now we have set up the context so that ChatGPT can provide us more specific results based on the task that we are doing. Alright, as next steps, you would hit this icon and go to the Explore GPT section and type in Advanced Data Analysis. And you would find this first option, which is like one of the most powerful GPTs out there, which offers a lot of different insights and guidance into how we should perform this. This has great ratings and being used by thousands of people at this point in time. This uses the Delhi images model from OpenAI and has the data analysis and browsing capabilities, which is very interesting because you can kind of give it a URL and ask it to go to that URL and ask for specific details on that page. So these plugins or GPTs, whatever you want to call them, are custom built to carry out very specific tasks. They're sort of fine-tuned on top of ChatGPT model, but to carry out a specific task and go much deeper than ChatGPT would usually do. All right, let's get started with this chat. So now, as you can see, we are using the Advanced Data Analysis GPT and not the GPT-4 raw model that we have been using up to this point in time. So the first thing you do generally when you analyze any data is you import that data from a source. This could be any kind of data file or a URL from which Advanced Data Analysis GPT could download that data. So let's start by asking what type of files can I import into this plugin? Already seems like we could do most of the usual file types: CSV, XLS, JSON text files, and also Parquet files, which are widely used for a lot of big data analysis tasks. So to download the data, I went on to Kaggle and to Dataset. Kaggle is a data science competition platform and online community of data scientists and machine learning practitioners. And you could find hundreds of thousands of publicly available free data that you can use for your analysis. For the purpose of this course, I've chosen the hotel booking demand dataset. Kaggle, technically you can download the data from anywhere you want, but since Kaggle has hundreds of thousands of these publicly available data sets, I'm going to choose one from here. This data is about the hotel booking demand. There are lots of details given for this data set, but I'm purposefully not going to show you here because that's exactly what we're going to want to do with the Advanced Data Analysis tool. All right, hit the download button and you have this file downloaded in archive mode. I believe you can directly upload that archived file and it's going to unarchive and get the actual file from it, but I have done the unarchiving for you and I'm going to upload this CSV file at this point in time. So let's upload this into ChatGPT and start asking some questions to perform basic statistical analysis. Tell me about this data set. For each column, give me a brief description. Let's see what it does. So it's basically doing a couple of things here. It has uploaded this file into the Advanced Data Analysis GPT. It's also taking, if you remember, the context that we provided earlier, and now it has decided to provide us some details for the CSV file. These are the different columns that are there in this data set, and it's also providing a very brief description of each of these columns. So we'll first do some descriptive statistics of each column before we jump into the more exploratory part of our data analysis, which is basically the third part of this video. Perform descriptive statistics on each column. So as you can see, for each of the columns in the data set, it has started to provide the count, the unique values in that column, and the top values. You can also see that for any numerical column, it is providing the count, mean, standard deviation, and also min and max values. For a categorical column, it is providing me the number of unique values, as I already showed you at the very beginning. As the next step, I'm going to ask it to group numerical and non-numerical columns separately into tables and also convert each row into a column in the table. So as you can see, you have to provide very pointy descriptions of the tasks that you would like the advanced data analysis tool to perform. So it's kind of analyzing the prompt that we have provided, and let's see what it is able to do. Alrighty, so numerical columns transposed. This is exactly what I meant when I asked converting rows into columns. So this is something super amazing. What you can see for any of the columns, for example, the lead time, the mean value for it, the standard deviation, the minimum values in 25th percentile, 50th percentile, 76th percentile, like which are values above 75% of the overall data set. And you could see it has done it for every single numerical as well as non-numerical columns. Oh, seems like it got stuck. Let's see what's happening here. Oh, so you have to hit the continue generating, which will probably push the advanced data analysis tool to generate the same for the non-numerical columns. Or you can also ask some specific questions around which column has the most number of null or empty values. This is again just an example of the things you would do when you analyze the data before you build, let's say, machine learning models on top of that data. So now you can clearly see that the column company has the most number of null or empty values in the data set with a total of, this is like massive number of missing entries. This suggests the information about the company is often not provided or applicable for many bookings in this data set. Now let's list down all unique values in the company column. So I'm assuming that these numbers represent a particular company. Can you aggregate the number of occurrences of each company and provide a count? So this is now showing top few companies with their occurrences, and it seems like company 40 has the most number of bookings, which is 927 bookings in our data set. The list includes 352 unique companies, obviously. Obviously that's a lot, so it has not provided all the companies for the sake of brevity. Now think of the different sorts of data cleaning that we generally do when we do data analysis tasks. Now I'm going to ask it to mutate or change this data set and provide me a link to download. Can you update all missing values in the company column and fill it with -1 wherever it is empty or null? Alrighty, so it says all missing values in the company column have been successfully updated and filled with -1. There are now no null values in this column. This is super amazing. So think of a data set that you're working on which has hundreds of thousands of missing values or incorrect values, which can now again be corrected using just the ChatGPT. If you look at this particular icon, you can also see the analysis of how it's actually performing this data set using some very basic Python code. Where can I download this updated data set? Now this is super awesome as it has provided us a link to download our own file, but now replaced. But in this new data set, the company column null values are already replaced with a -1 value. What else do you want? Alrighty, so this was the basic of statistical analysis using this advanced data analysis tool. I would go ahead and ask 3 of my favorite questions with this GPT that we're using at this point in time. The first one is related to the anomaly detection. So I would ask if you can identify any unusual patterns or outliers in the data. Which entries are the most bizarre and why? All right, let's see if it's able to do some baseline anomaly detection for us. Alrighty, here we go. We found some outliers. This could take between days to weeks to even months for our data analysts to find out. So high number of special requests. So some bookings have up to 5 special requests, which is significantly higher than average, which is great. You can obviously go ahead and ask the average for a special request. So second one is an interesting one. It shows that some bookings were made up to 737 days in advance, which is literally a couple of years in advance, which is also not very common. So this is an interesting thing that we can dig deeper into. So there are specific bookings that require up to 8 parking spaces, which is also unusual for a hotel booking. This seems like a big family or a group of people. All right. Some of the bookings have a very high ADR, up to 5,000 plus, which kind of indicates that some of the bookings are about luxurious stays or potential errors in the data entry. This is the kind of stats that we look for as we start to clean our data set before we again build some machine learning models on top of it. So this one is a super interesting one as a hotel manager. There are some bookings that have up to 391 days of waitlist. This again could be a problem with the booking management system. So this is an area where we would dig deeper into literally each of these rows and figure out what's happening and try to resolve them. And lastly, again, another anomaly is there are some bookings which have up to 55 adults and up to 10 children, which are extreme for typical hotel bookings. Obviously, this seems like either there's a problem with the data, or this is a group booking done by someone for the entire family or a group of friends. This also, in my opinion, is somewhat related to the car parking spaces and maybe related to the special requests. For the days in waiting list, can you provide me 5 rows and help me dig deeper? Alrighty, so here's some data, and again, you can do some correlations and causations around each one of these columns and figure out some common patterns in them. Alrighty, so this was a quick example of anomaly detection, or I would technically say starting on anomaly detection in your data set, and get to the bottom of why these issues exist in your data set, if there are errors in the system or the process, or there's something else going on here. Let's look at an example of predictive modeling. So based on historical trends in the data set, what predictions can you make for the next year? Can we create fun model to forecast future bookings? So this is again a very baseline example of predictive modeling. All right, so it says creating a model to forecast future bookings based on historical trends can be a valuable tool for planning and management. Here's a simple approach. So it's providing you a detailed approach to look into the data itself and understand seasonality, the trends, the cyclic patterns, and then how you would clean it and how you would choose a model. So build a baseline model, statistical model, time series forecasting, and then you can obviously go ahead and build machine learning models. You can also look into building deep learning models. And obviously you will do data training and validation and do this splitting and cross-validation steps, performance metrics to look into, and a bunch of other steps. All right. And here we go. This is exactly what I was looking for. I was actually not sure, and I was looking at all these details that it would actually provide me some code to do it. But here you go. Here's some fun forecasting model using Python stats model. Again, this is the baseline example. You can obviously go deeper into building a more sophisticated deep learning model for data analysis here. So one last example for the second part of this course that I want to provide is the correlation hunt. So I'm going to go ahead and ask, what are the most unexpectedly correlated variables in this data set? Can you create a visualization? Something that we haven't asked and something that we would do a lot in part 3 of the course, but let's get a little bit of this in this part, showing the strangest relationships. So let's see if it's able to do some fun correlation hunting for us. Alrighty, so this has generated an amazing heat map for us. You can see the heat map focuses on pairs with a correlation coefficient greater than 0.5. So it has obviously dropped all the values less than that, which indicates a strong relationship but isn't inherently obvious. For example, variables like total number of special requests correlated to booking changes, which again, in my opinion, isn't really something strange, but it is what it is. But that's what the tool is saying. These relationships would also reveal some operational dynamics, such as the link between the length of stay and booking changes, or between types of guests. This sounds super interesting to me. So it says if you're interested in exploring any specific pair of variables, look further, or need any other type of visualization, feel free to let me know. So as a data analyst or a data scientist, think of the possibilities that you can jump into from here onwards to look into different types of causations and correlations. But again, I just wanted to give you a quick example of what's possible with this advanced data analysis tool. Alrighty, so that's it for this part of the course. In the third and last section of the course, we'll be doing a quick exploratory analysis of our data set. Let's jump right in. Alright, let's start off with the third and last section of this course, exploratory data analysis. So I've asked ChatGPT to perform that on each of the columns in the data set. I'm asking it to provide some sort of visualizations to represent content in each of the different columns. I'm also giving it some hints. So these are some of the things that you need to do when using ChatGPT or any other large language model. For example, use a histogram for numeric columns like is cancelled. I'm also giving it a very specific example of a column. You don't really need to do this part, but this seems to provide much better results, and also clearly indicating ChatGPT of what not to do. So one of the things that can potentially happen with these sort of prompts is it might give you a Python code to run those yourself using Matplotlib or Seaborn or other libraries. But that's not what I want. What I want is the actual chart or graph for each of the columns. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to skip it over in the video, but this literally took me a couple of minutes. But look at this beautiful graphs and chart that ChatGPT has generated for us. across each of the columns. So this is for the hotel column, is canceled column. So there are about 70,000 plus bookings that did not cancel, but over 40,000 bookings that got cancelled. So this is something we should explore more with our exploratory analysis. All right, let's go deeper. It's the distribution of lead time and a bunch of other distribution that it has generated for us across the board for every single column there are. Alrighty, so the next question I'm going to ask if ChatGPT can generate an appropriate chart to understand outliers for lead time column. And here's what it has generated for me. So it's clearly telling from the plot, we can see that there are several outliers in the lead time, which are kind of plotted on this side, indicating that some bookings have significantly longer lead time compared to the majority. And now it's asking if you need further analysis or additional visualizations, please let me know. So now I'm going to ask you to discuss potential approaches for dealing with these outliers, such as transformation, capping, or removal. Let's see what it is. So dealing with outliers is an important step in the pre-processing, as we know as a data analyst. So it has kind of started to give some very basic Python code for log transformation, scatter transformations, capping, also known as winsorizing. And it gives you all these handy little details and code snippets that you can use in your own data analysis pipeline. So we gave it a few hints. It has also talked about imputation and then other techniques like segmentation and the code for each of these. So next up, I'm going to ask it to determine which features are most influential in predicting the target variable. So in my case, I want to understand which features are the top predictors for the cancellation of any particular hotel booking. So now it has started to give in some approaches through which I can get to those variables through data processing, model training, evaluation. And here's where it starts to do the actual code snippets, handling missing values, model training. It's using scikit-learn to build a model, and then evaluation and visualization. Alrighty, in the next section, I'm going to ask ChatGPT to give me the feature importance or to predict is cancelled variable. So basically what I'm trying to understand is what are the different factors that influence the cancellation of the booking. I'm clearly stating to show no code and just to show me graphs and the analysis itself. Alrighty, so here are the top 20 features that are directly impacting is cancelled. Some of them are expected, like the special request and lead time, and some of them are pretty special. You can now go further in your analysis and dig deeper into like which variables you need to work on and if there's an issue with the data set that you need to fix. I found this interesting, that the different deposit policies can directly affect cancellation behavior, with more stringent policies reducing cancellations. Market segment is another bigger variable that kind of directly impacts cancellation, and days in the waiting list for sure. Alrighty, that's it for this quick data analysis with ChatGPT course. If you liked it, please feel free to share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the next more detailed course. Please let me know in the comments below. Thank you.